What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? You know the vibes. It's Tuesday. We're going to get our weekly hit in with NFL insider, TV analyst, and one of the main guys covering the Washington Commanders, my boy, Lake Lewis. How you doing this morning, man?
What's going on, Rio? How you doing, man?
I'm doing a lot better. It's a lot easier to do this coming off a victory. And it was not the prettiest of victories, but we'll take it, right?
Man, listen, you got to take them how you get them. And, they were, 7-2-1 the Giants were against Washington over the last 10 games. So I don't care if they kicked 50 field goals or if they made one field goal and won the game 3-0. A W is a W. The atmosphere here is much different from what it is up the road, 95 up in New York.
Now up the road in New York, down the street in Baltimore, where they're 0-2 up there as well. And after Philly's loss last night, Washington is sitting atop the NFC East, tied at 1-1 with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. You were there covering the game. Give me the mood, the atmosphere of Northwest Stadium. Almost called it FedEx again. What were the changes like? I know we saw some brown spots on the field, but what was the overall feeling and the look and the feel at Northwest?
It was different, man. Obviously we started the day at 10 o'clock with, a little introductory press conference of, all the figureheads at Northwest, Credit Union. They were there with Josh Harris, Magic Johnson, and they were just talking about how it's about giving back to the community and they want to do things like that in the stadium. And I believe them. I think that that's a big deal for them to make the fan experience different this year. There was a concert. Wale was there, and they had him up, not on the field like in previous years. They put people on the field, let them do one song, and they're out. No, he was up and did it was like above the Jumbotron. They had like a little stage that was set up specifically for that. So it was no one else up there but him. And looking down over the stadium, and I think you can't really hear a whole lot in the press box, but I'm pretty sure he did at least 4 or 5 songs because everybody in the building, even Giants fans, were into it. So, they just wanted to make it more of a festive event for everybody there. But I will say this, Rio, it was probably 70-30 Commanders fans.
Let's go.
65-35. I'll give them 65-35
go.
Commanders fans. So it wasn't a whole lot of blue, red, white, and blue up in there. Naturally, behind the opposing team's bench, you see that. But, in years past, it filtered all the way around the stadium.
Absolutely.
Not the case on Sunday.
It was a sea of blue every time the Giants came here. So that is progress. We will take it little by little. For some people, that is not a big deal. As a fan, that is a big deal to me. You saying Wale was on the Jumbotron, that is news to me. I figured they either throw him at the midfield and say perform Nike boots and get off the field, that or put him in the Legends Plaza or something like that. But that is dope. That is awesome to hear. We the field wasn't in the greatest conditions, but they're going to get that figured out with the irrigation and all of that. Did you get a good walk around the stadium? Did you get a good feel for some of the new things that they've implemented at Northwest Stadium?
Yeah, they did, and I'll start with us. With the media in the press box. They painted in there. The interview room. Where Coach Quinn will come. Previous coaches always come. That's been painted. It's like a gray color that makes it look more library-ish. As opposed to just a dirty media room. Yeah. Little things as far as the catering in there. It's the food has been different. It's just. Everything has been an ultimate upgrade. And then, the sound system's been upgraded. So that's much louder.
Oh, Lord knows they needed that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's more security features, to get around the stadium. Anywhere you enter now, you have to, scan your face and it tells you who you are immediately. So, just nuances that they're upgrading, and they also have right where the players come out the locker room. There's kind of I don't know what you would call it. It's like a little mini, lounge, right?
I think it's called like the Tunnel Club or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's right there. And it's nice. They did a really good job, to take a room before that people used to store their bags in and stuff like that. And now it's somewhere where you want to be in the stadium and you see the players coming out. So listen, let's just be upfront about this. They know that this is an old stadium and it's dilapidated in some areas, not modern. But they're going to try until they get a new stadium. They're going to try to get this one up to par, just so fans and players could feel like, they're part of something and they're not just living in somebody else's home right now.
That makes a lot of sense. And they upgraded a storage closet. You know that closet where you get company over and you say throw your jacket in there, throw the shoes in there when you
Yeah,
walk in the
yeah.
house. They turned that into a club and a lounge for people to hang out right by where the players walk out to the field. Last thing on non-football, and then we can get to what happened on the field. How did you like the gold pants? I think they look tremendous with the burgundy. They brought out the burgundy gold, the burgundy and gold jerseys and helmet perfectly to me.
Personally, I think they should just scrap the white pants going forward if they wear the burgundy jerseys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go burgundy on gold. You have to. That's the look. It fit. It goes with the helmets. I
It's
mean,
sharp, man.
and it's old school. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
brings back that nostalgia. And let's face it, we missed that name. It's not coming back. So if you can get little bits and pieces of what that name was, on the field, let's do it. I'm saying right now, I'm gonna call it out myself. Let's put that feather on the W on the helmet. They're wearing the shirt, so why not just go ahead and make it official on
Ooh.
the top? You can do that. You're not using the name, you're not offending anyone, but you're going to be making a whole lot of people happy if you can bring something back that reminds them of those good old days.
Yep, the storied history and lore of this franchise and the nostalgia is what a lot of people hang their hats on when it comes to this football team because it's been quite some time since they've seen success. The gold pants definitely make them feel more like the old team. They look great, they look sharp, but an ugly football game was played on Sunday. We're talking 7 scoring drives with no punts, but we won the game. 425 yards in offense, no touchdown. The defense, a lot to be desired, but somehow the scoreboard reflected an under 20-point game. What was your main takeaway as soon as the clock hit zero on Sunday?
Not the fact that they won, which is
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing, but the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they battled to the very end to get the W. Because let's face it, Rio, in years past, this team may have packed it in, man. I'm just calling
Always.
it like it is. It may have gotten a little tight around the collar and they just jumped off the cliff. I mean, but they didn't do that on Sunday. They found a way to stay in the game. When the Giants scored later in the game, you just knew right there it was done. Because in years past, the game would have been over. Well, they still found a way. They still battled, and for my money, Jaden Daniels looked the best in that final drive. You saw everything that he can do. He had the big scramble at the end to put him at the 5-yard line, but he also hit some throws underneath that were important to get that drive in field goal position. So that's the type of win that you build off of, that you can capitalize off of. And then when you see everything going on in your division is haywire right now, man, that stuff gives you hope right now. So I just like the fact that they battled and they grinded this one out, and that's something they hadn't done in years past.
Found a way to cross the finish line on top on the scoreboard. That's a game we lose 10 out of 10 in years prior.
Every year we lose
They
that.
pack it in, the effort's bad, and we're not able to overcome Washington doing Washington things. The big graduating moment from the quarterback, for whatever reason it is, Jaden's held to a different standard of quarterbacks pass, and he's expected to be perfect. Only 6 incompletions on the day. Sacked 4 times, well, sacked 5 times on the day, but still never turned the ball over. He hasn't made a crucial mistake yet. He's the only quarterback in the division that hasn't turned it over yet. All the other quarterbacks in the division have multiple turnovers, not our rookie. He went over 200 yards for the first time in his career. He got his first welcome to the NFL hit, caught him a nice little body shot to the liver, knocked the wind out of him. He came out, scared everybody. For all of you RG3 PTSDers, that was your moment to hop in and
To
say,
just let
I
it
told
go.
you so. I
Yeah.
told you so.
But let it go, because
Exactly.
at the end of the day, Rio, the guy showed toughness. He got up from that, came back in, and I think that was, this might sound crazy, man, but I think that was officially the black cloud finally going away from FedEx Field, because when he went down, everyone's thinking, "Oh my God, here we go again."
Mhm.
Not another one.
The
Well,
soap
he
opera
got up.
continues.
Absolutely, he got up, and I think you're
Mhm.
right. For everyone who's stuck on RG3 and Jaden, they're not the same player. People
They're
need to
not.
stop that. I actually just did something about this quarterback situation, and I ask people this all the time, Jaden. What great quarterback, and I'm talking the GOATs, didn't miss a year from being injured? Joe Montana missed a year with his back. Peyton Manning missed a year with his neck.
Brady.
Tom Brady missed a year with the ACL, MCL. Well, guess where they all got hurt, man? In the
In the
pocket.
pocket. Thank
In the
you.
pocket. So if
Thank
you're
you.
gonna keep saying he needs to stop running and stay in the pocket and throw the football, listen, things happen, man. Where did Lamar Jackson get hurt last year or 2 years
In
ago?
the pocket.
In the pocket. So I just keep telling people, let this man be himself. He's been doing this since he was 7 years old. He won a Heisman Trophy. He did it in the toughest league in college football. Well, I'm a Big Ten guy, but yeah, SEC's right there, of course. So
You're
what
right.
I'm
You're
saying
correct.
is, yeah, let him be himself because that's what you need. And I also will say this to fans: what great quarterbacks today? I'm talking about the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes. We know Joe Burrow got hurt, and he got hurt in that stadium. So,
Mhm.
but most of the great quarterbacks today, they have not missed a full season of football. As violent as the game is, as fast as the defenders are, well, guess what? The quarterbacks are pretty big too, and the quarterbacks are running. I
Yep.
think Jaden understands after he took that big hit. Okay, I had my moment, like you said, and
Mhm.
he started throwing darts after that. I mean, he did. He
Did.
started being conscious of staying in the pocket and throwing the ball. But you can't take away the weapons of these guys. When you try to make Jalen Hurts a pocket passer, he just can't do that. So let him be a dual threat, and that's how you win football games.
Exactly. You can't take away these guys' superpowers. Obviously, there's a time and a place for the running shit, but like early on in the game, he was under so much pressure immediately because his team still has no idea how to pick up blitzes that he had to evade pressure and shake two defenders and dive forward for the first down because how else were we going to pick it up? But I'm giving Jaden a B plus for Sunday. It was his
Oh yeah.
first game-winning drive of his career. He gets knocked out of play, comes back in, and is so much better passing the ball down the field. He picked his running spots better, and that may be the learning lesson for him that I cannot try to be Superman. I need to get out of I need to get out of bounds. I need to get down whenever I run. I think this guy is developing quite nicely and ahead of schedule through 2 weeks of his career.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I think fans need to really jump on and feel good about with Jaden is a lot of rookie quarterbacks, when they get a little shell shocked, they start forcing it to their number one. They start forcing it to the playmaker every time
Mhm.
to help them out. I mean, Terry did have six targets, 22 yards. I mean, six catches,
Mhm.
22 yards. That's not good.
On his birthday
Oh
too.
yeah,
Like,
that's not
damn.
good. But guess what is good? Zach Ertz, 4 catches, 62 yards.
Mhm.
Noah Brown, 3 big catches
Huge.
to show that he can be your second receiver now. And then you're also running the football effectively with Brian Robinson, a career day for him, 133 yards. Austin Eckler. For anybody who thinks that Austin Eckler was an old man and didn't have the juice, sorry. Think again because he took one to the house opening kickoff. They got called back. But you see the plays that he's making during the game.
Mhm.
Those are big drive sustaining type of plays. So Jaden's spreading the ball around. And I have
Mhm.
no problem with that because when Terry comes around, and hopefully he does, it's just going to open things up even more.
Oh yeah, we're gonna find a way to get Terry the ball. We're gonna talk about the receivers in just a second, but you brought up those running backs. Eckler, who last week I'm like, why do they have Eckler running back kicks? Because he runs it like a halfback dive, takes the opening kickoff to the crib, something Washington never does. But of course, it was negated by penalty because everything was negated by penalty on Sunday. But Eckler, almost 5 yards a carry. Brian Robinson, just under 8 yards a carry, 133 rushing yards for B-Rob, 44 rushing yards for Jayden Daniels, Austin Eckler, 38 rushing yards. Talk to me about that rushing attack. 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing. That is the balance fans love to see.
Well, and I think you also need to give credit to Cliff Kingsbury, who's under some pressure. You know,
Yeah.
people think the offense isn't getting it done. Well, Cliff Kingsbury in that air raid was ground and pound, and he figured it out.
Mhm.
You've got a sledgehammer back there in Brian Robinson who looks really good, and he can catch the ball at the backfield too. So that
Yep.
two-headed monster of him and Austin Eckler are going to be intricate as to how far this football team can go, Rio. And I'm telling you, right now that tandem is deadly.
It
They
is.
can do a lot of things, and they're on the field at the same times. You don't know what's going to happen, and then you have obviously the chances of Jaden being able to take off on you too. So these are things defenses are starting to game plan for. Make no mistake, Cincinnati Bengals are game planning now for the running game for Washington, and Jaden Daniels being a big part of that too. So I think that helps. And then once teams start stacking the box, then you'll be able to see Jaden's arm. You'll be able to see the deep ball. And I think it's important now that they found the number 2 receiver, because Naomi Brown, I was telling people, obviously, I'm a little hurt because Jahan's not here. But at the end of the day, you get a rugged guy like that to go opposite Terry, it opens some things up, man. It's going to open up that running game even more.
Hopefully, we get to see more Diami and Luke McCaffrey. Jahan was out there running around last night in the Eagles Falcons game. He had a lot of snaps, only had a catch for 7 yards with A.J. Brown out. But Washington's not getting much from the wide receiver position through 2 weeks. Our main guy, even on his birthday, Terry McLaurin, 6 catches for 22 yards. But the backs, though, Austin Eckler, 3 catches for 47 yards on that beautiful. There was the 2 best calls Cliff called all day, is where they made the defense think the play was going to the right. They moved the pocket right,
Yeah.
threw it back to left to Austin Eckler. Perfect design. That in the middle screen on 3rd and 13. On 3rd and 13, a down where you usually, with a rookie quarterback, you're going to run a draw or a screen and just try to punt the drive. But they do a perfectly diagnosed middle screen to Austin Eckler. He's such a weapon in the passing game. Are you concerned with how Terry McLaurin is being utilized, or what his output has been through 2 weeks?
Yeah, but I've been saying this for years. Like, love Terry to death, great guy, man. And he's a really good football player.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he's an alpha one. I've been saying this for years. It's not knocking. See, when we say things about players,
Hater.
people think I'm attacking, I'm a hater. I mean, I respect these guys. They're pros. They're the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, in Washington over the years, the best of our best, sometimes fans think are the best of the rest of the league's best, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that they are not good football players, because Terry is a Pro Bowl player. But a number 1 to me is a guy that, despite being double teamed, still is going to eat. He's still going to find a way. When you get double teamed at any position in the NFL or the NBA or whatever sport you want to call it, that's a sign of respect for your game. But guess what? Those guys still find a way. And I think it's just as much as Cliff Kingsbury to get Terry more involved in open spaces, but it's also important for Terry to keep doing what he's doing. Some fans are saying, oh, he's open. He's open. Maybe he is, but you just got to keep doing what you have to do, because if you can give Jaden that target that we all think that he can be, man, this thing can start going upward real fast. But as a leader of the team, the one thing I respect about Terry is he's not complaining. He's not, why am I not getting the ball? Blah blah.
Stomping his
He's
feet.
thinking,
Yeah.
he's thinking it, but he's not complaining, and that's why I respect the kid so much. But I think, if you can get the contribution on the other side of him, it's going to keep teams from having that single high safety always over him. And the Giants, I mean, damn, Rio, they almost had a linebacker coming over as well. He was like in a triangle box where he couldn't do anything. Well, guess what? Jaden went to the other people. And that's what you got to do. Sometimes you got to sacrifice your numbers for the betterment of the team. And Terry's doing that right now. But he's going to come around. Make no mistake about it.
He has to come around at some point. And my take on the matter, when it comes to Terry being a true number 1, I will say, you see the difference when one of those guys is on the opposing side of the field. Jaden played with a guy in college that wears number. Yes. Did you see that dude on the Giant side?
Hey, listen, man. There is no question that that is a number one receiver.
That's what it looks like.
Right now, he was the
Mhm.
giant. And see, this is what we were talking about last week, Rio.
Mhm.
There's levels to this talent stuff, man.
Definitely.
And if you see that Jaden talent wise, he's Commander's best player. Stop it, anybody. Don't come at me. You know he is. Well, guess
Facts.
who's the best player for the Giants talent wise? It's number one over there.
Unquestionably.
That guy's ridiculous. And if he can get somebody on the other side of him, get some tight end action and a running game. They're not using Singletary enough, in my opinion. But if he can get some more weapons around him and maybe a better quarterback, you're going to see what can happen. I mean, it could get ugly. And that's what I'm saying. You think of Malik Neighbors as the one in Washington. I'm going to leave it at that.
I
What could
know.
happen?
That's what it looks like. And that's what my take on the matter is. That shit over there looks different. You know what it looks like when you got one of them ones out there. And we're going to talk more about Malik Neighbors when we get to the defensive side of the ball. Cliff Kingsbury, as hard as we've been on him as fans, as hard as we harp on the play calling, I think Cliff knows our wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired, and they're trying to compensate by having tight ends and running backs take away some of the targets from the receivers because we lack the separation, we lack the size, and we lack elite talent at that position. Noah Brown just got here. What an addition he was on Sunday. Him and Jaden have an immediate rapport. The biggest two plays of our passing attack Sunday were to Noah Brown.
Yeah, Rhea, I'm so glad you said that and brought that up because, again, not knocking Terry, but we talk about a catch radius. Those catches that Noah Brown were making were difficult catches. The diving catch, the like the 25-yarder, that was tough, man. Terry can make that catch. But when we talk about number ones, their catch radius is anywhere near them within 2 feet. I don't care if it's low, high, middle ground, they're catching it. And I think for Jaden, you go back to LSU and who he was throwing the football to, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. I mean, those are guys that catch anything near them and make things happen afterwards. So he's having to figure out some things too with the receiving corps that's in Washington. And I agree with you. If you ask me right now, one of the weakest position rooms on Washington, it's clearly going to be wide receiver and corners. That's there's no doubt that it went from being a tragic linebacker room over the past years to now that's a strength. So if you can get your wide receivers up to par, it could just change things. But unfortunately, I don't know if they have that on the roster. I mean, they have two really good receivers. They have a Pro Bowler in Terry. They have a really good receiver in Noah Brown. And I like Luke McCaffrey, but not right now. I mean, you talking about winning at this very second. It's going to take these other guys, some time. De'Ami Brown, we already know what he does in the preseason, but has he one catch yet in the regular?
He finally got on the board with a screen and another. He had like 2 catches for like 20 yards on Sunday, but that's not going to get it done. You were supposed to be starting and going off in your breakout. This is a contract year, De'Ami.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. So clearly, you're right. Give Cliff Kingsbury some credit because he's recognizing that maybe he doesn't have certain things, so he's trying to get other people involved. Once Ben Sinnott can get going as well, he's still a rookie that's learning and having to get better. And these are things we said during training camp that McCaffrey and Sinnott, they're going to be really good football players for the Commander, but not in the current moment. It's going to take them some time to get their feet wet. Zach Ertz is that guy, but you cannot lose him during the season because that could be disastrous. Again, Terry hasn't done anything. So you have to naturally think when his numbers start to increase, and I think they're going to get him the ball in Cincinnati. They understand that. They've got to find ways to get him in space, maybe put him in motion where he's not getting jammed at the line of scrimmage with a safety over and a linebacker chipping. These are things that they're going to have to figure out. But let's just say this, though, Rio. I don't want them to come out in Cincinnati and throw 2 straight bubble screens because they did it in Tampa. It was like the same exact 2 plays that they ran in Tampa. They ran against the Giants. let's not make it a trifecta against the Bengals.
Yeah, no more rinse Washington, repeat Cliff Kingsbury. We got to come out doing something different. Just hand the ball off on
I mean,
first down or
something. Or
something,
just
man.
listen, man. I did a show last week with Jason Campbell, former quarterback here, and
Ooh, shout out Campbell.
he said that they used to always make it a point. The coaches, the Joe Gibbs of the world, they made it a point to say we want to throw the ball deep 2 quarters. Every quarter, you want to throw the ball deep, even if it's nothing there. It's just to make defenses think you're going to throw the ball deep,
Keep them guessing.
and until you do that in Washington, they're going to lay off. They're going to keep that safety over Terry. So maybe if the safety's even there, let Terry run by the corner and just throw it up there, see what happens. I'm not saying risk, interception or turnover, but man, I can tell you right now, the way the Giants were playing them, their safeties, there was no threat for them, and they were comfortable out there. You got to start dictating offense to them, and they started doing it once they got the running game going. So hopefully that's the catalyst for them.
Yep, some more balance is definitely on its way. They literally could blitz safety Jason Pinnock every other down of the game because there was no threat of going over the top. So he lived in the backfield with Jaden Daniels. Their safeties were blitzing on a regular basis. The O-line held up all right. They weren't bad. They weren't good. But 5 false start penalties inside the red zone. We had a 10 penalty day. We can never have that again. It's impossible for a rookie quarterback to score from 3rd and goal from the 14-yard line. Like, what are we doing? How would you overall grade the offense so we can move over to the defensive side?
I mean, I'm going to give the offense a C plus. The running game I'm giving an A minus. But I think the fact that they were moving the ball in between the 20s, consistently, that's good. I mean, that shows that when you're 0 for 7 in the red zone, yeah, it's not good that you didn't get 7 on the board, 6 on the board, but it still shows that you're in that area all the time. So those are good things that you can work from. Those are good things that you can feel like, okay, it's not like the offense is just sputtering and they can't do anything. They are moving the football effectively, but their creativity within the red zone is lacking. And that's what I thought you got Austin Eckler for, red zone demon. I thought that's what you got Zach Ertz for, because Zach Ertz used to eat in the red zone as well. So you have to make it a focal point for those two guys to be, a play that's called for them. So hopefully those are things that they'll be working on this week in practice. Thank God we have 3 days off. We don't have practice today, don't have practice tomorrow. Obviously Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll be back out there. So I'll take a look and see if that's what happens.
Okay. And I'm going to give him a B. I'm grading him on a curve because we'll talk about
that's a high curve, man.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a high curve. I'm going to give the offense a B because we're going to talk about MVP Austin Seibert later in the show. But 7 scoring drives. I know we should have 35, 42, 49 points up. But with all the new that we're ushering in, with all the new concepts of this offense, Tress Way did not have to step out on the field. And on top of 7 scoring drives, they still haven't turned the ball over yet in 2 weeks under all that pressure. So I'm going to give them a B. And the quarterback led them on a game-winning drive. So you had him at a C+? I'll give him a B.
So realistically, you're giving them a B minus.
Yeah, I'll give them. It's closer to a C, but I'm gonna go ahead and grade it on a curve because
that's all right.
7 scoring drive. Hey, we will take. We do not score 20 points in football game. We will take 21 points any way we can get it, but we should have been over 30 easily on Sunday. But let's move over to the defensive side of the ball because I think there's a lot more criticism and critique to go around. Daniel Jones breaks his touchdown streak. He hadn't thrown a touchdown in over 365 days. He gets 2 touchdowns. We keep him under 200 yards. Devin Singletary looks like the second coming of Saquon Barkley. And Malik Neighbors drops a potential game-deciding catch at the end of the game. How did you think Washington's defense fared Sunday?
I thought it was poor until the fourth quarter. I think in the fourth quarter, I saw glimpses of what they can do. I have to grade their defense on individual games. I thought Frankie Louvu was an absolute monster.
He's a monster.
On Monday, he got an A+ from me. I mean, he set the tone, cranking people. crush Malik Neighbors. I know Neighbors got up, but guess what?
Smacked him.
He left the game right after that to get it together. So
Mhm.
I think, Bobby Wagner had a good game, had a nice, strong comeback from that week 1 game in Tampa, where you could just tell guys were fatigued and not in game shape ready because they hadn't played in the preseason. So it's going to take some time, but I'm still looking for. I thought Deron Payne had a decent game. I did. John Allen, okay game, but that's the problem. You can't have decent and okay games from your 2 highest paid defenders
Every week.
every week. They have to find a way to fight through. And again, man, I took so much heat last week from people saying, "Oh, you called out John or whatever." As I said, he called himself out by what he did or what he didn't do.
Mhm.
All I'm saying is that when you accept those paychecks, there comes a responsibility with you to be a leader
It's a
and for
fact.
you to excel on the field. If you're spending your time worrying about what we're saying about you in the media, then that's a problem in itself because you're not focused where you should be. And all I'm saying is that with this team, I saw Johnny Newton. He took 11 snaps. He got double teamed 5 times. Out of his 11 snaps, half of that he was double teamed, a
Mhm.
rookie that hadn't played yet. Somebody saw some tape on this guy and they know what
That's
he can
respect.
do.
That's
That's
respect.
respect. That's
Mhm.
respect. So if he's getting double teamed, somebody else isn't. And I understand that, I would like to see Joe Witt use, Johnny Newton more with John Allen or Deron Payne and not strictly platooning both he and Fedarian Mathis and for John and Deron. So I want to see a little bit of a mixture there because I think that these guys can help you. I know Johnny Newton can help you. I mean, some people are like, oh, they didn't call his name all day. If you go back and watch the tape, and which I do, you look at the film, he had like 3 quarterback hurries just being there. And unfortunately, 2 of those hurries, the ball went to Malik Neighbors, so you don't even
Mhm.
think about that.
Yep.
So again, you need your core players, man. You need your frontline players to be exactly what they are. You can't talk it, you got to walk it and get out there and get it done if you're getting paid like that.
Absolutely. And the fans used to do this thing where they would ignore all of Chase Young's poor play and poor work ethic by saying he got doubled every play. And we're now doing that with Payne and Allen. They got doubled every play. Yes, they get doubled a lot. There are stunts we can run, there are alignments, and there is an expected production that still needs to happen. Dexter Lawrence, we gave him a lot of attention. He was making plays all over the field on Sunday for the Giants. Chris Jones does it every week, and people say they're not those guys. Well, they're getting paid like them.
Well,
So,
that's what that I'm so glad you said that because
mhm,
if you know that they're not those guys, they shouldn't have been
mhm.
paid like that. And that's been my biggest issue is stop propping up guys that are good football players to be world beaters and expect them to be world beaters when you know that they're not. That's the problem. But again, you accepted the check, so you got to go out and get it done. Bottom line.
Period. Point blank, period. Washington is last 32nd in the league in third down percentage. We've given up about 62% on third down, and we are 31st in the league in sack percentage per drop back. Cleveland Farrell is the only person on the team capable of sacking the quarterback, and the sacks were kind of right to him, but we're not going to get mad at sacks here because we don't get them. They come a dime a dozen for this organization. Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler Jr., we're not getting any edge rush pressure. We're not getting any pressure from the interior. What needs to change on Joe Witt's end for us to start making life uncomfortable? We were at least in the vicinity of Baker Mayfield. Daniel Jones was doing whatever he wanted to on Sunday.
Yeah, and the first thing to me was getting to the stadium on Sunday and seeing Jamin in a in a skybox.
Healthy scratch. Yeah, I seen him
Yeah,
in
man.
taking pictures with Wale.
I,
Like,
I couldn't understand that because Jamin was one of the very few guys I thought played well against Tampa.
mhm.
Was coming around the edge and you it's a confidence thing too. You don't want to take his confidence away when he's been playing well. So they decided to scratch him. They didn't have a pass rush. Daniel Jones was comfortable. There were times he sat in the pocket 3 seconds, 4 seconds. You can't have that. You just can't. The Giants
Nope.
offensive line looked like the Eagles line. They just they were comfortable with everything that they had in front of them. So to me, Dan Quinn's defense doesn't blitz a lot. That's just not his style. But he's always had edge rushers that wreak havoc. And that's something that they're struggling with right now. So to me, maybe you use Jamin in that Micah Parsons role, to where you can move him around because he's athletic enough to do those things. He's not Micah Parsons. I'm not saying that.
He
I'm
has
gonna
the most
say,
juice in that room, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm saying as far as the twitch and all that, he might be the one guy that you can get away doing some things. So they're gonna have to really be creative because I think what we're all noticing here, Rio, is how limited this roster is. And I know people say, well, this their roster, they put it together. No, they've tried to flip it as much as they could.
In
But
1 year.
right, but they still have 23 players that are from the previous group.
Yep.
So, and I think what we're seeing is if they had their way, it might not be 23 other players from the previous group on this team. That seems to be the trending direction this thing's going. It's going to be in 2-3 years a totally gutted roster just with their handpicked players, draft picks, and free agents, because the proof is in the pudding, man. And we've seen this too many times. We talked about earlier how years past they may have packed it in and not got this W. Well, it's the new faces that are carrying them. The only guy that I can say right now from the previous regime is earning his keep. It's clearly Brian Robinson. I mean, it's Brian Robinson. But if you look at all the guys that were big time pieces of a win on Sunday, new kicker, new tight end, second running back is new, new rookie quarterback, new wide receiver, Noah Brown. Come on, man. What are we doing? So to me, the only two guys on this roster right now that are earning their paychecks from the previous regime, to me, it's two, and it's Brian Robinson and it's Sam Cosmi.
Yep, Brian Robinson and Sam Cosmi, a guy that we're also very hard on, but swung the game for Washington. Benjamin St.
St.
Juice,
Juice might be in there too.
There
He
we
might
go.
be in there. Yes.
Benjamin St. Juice. I'm hard on him. The fans are hard on him. Benjamin, we do not win that football game on Sunday if he does not Peanut Tillman punch the ball out of Devin Singletary's hand. Washington finally forced a turnover late.
Yeah, man. You know what? And that was, man, it was a sight for sore eyes, man. We needed that. They needed to prove that they can do it because they just don't turn the ball over on offense. So for him to do that and for the assignment that he had, I mean, it was tough. When they moved, and this is something that I hope fans understand, they moved Malik Neighbors over to the other side and had him on Michael Davis, and that's when he started going to work. So,
oh my God, we're gonna talk about him in a second.
He that's when he was leg up on fire hydrant. That's what started to happen. I'm telling you, I think St. Juice has the potential to be a one corner. I do. I've always felt like that. I just felt like he needed the proper coaching and he needed his confidence. Well, hopefully Sunday's game is a confidence builder because even last week in Tampa, 2 weeks ago in Tampa, when he got beat by Mike Evans in the back of the end zone, he was there.
He's always usually in the
vicinity. That's just a potential Hall of Famer making a hell of a catch. But Benji's always in position. You go back to the preseason game where Tua beat him in the back of the end zone. He's there. It's just a hell of a throw from a really good quarterback. So they just need something on the other side because it wasn't there on Sunday.
Oh, my God. But St. Jude, shout out to him. I think in a perfect world, he could be a very, very good cornerback too. I think on a bad team, he could definitely be a cornerback one, but he's always there. He's always step for step with receivers, but he's always a millisecond off because he's not a burner. He has that size profile that Dan Quinn likes in corners, and they had to task him with Malik Neighbors because Michael Davis, he gave me a newfound respect for Emmanuel Forbes. He made me miss Emmanuel Forbes on Sunday. Michael Davis.
Did you just say
that? Yes, I just said that. Michael Davis made me miss Emmanuel Forbes. Now that is a bad cornerback. I know what it looks like. That guy didn't want to cover. That guy didn't want to tackle. That you cannot win with football players like that on Sunday.
Nah, it was bad, man. And he got beat back to back with the same move. You know,
Same play.
same play. Malik caught the ball and gave him a little shoulder shrug, went the other way, and he bit both times.
Mm-hmm.
That's a veteran corner. He should know better than that. I mean, it's just, again, this is what they're trotting out there, man. This is what they decided to go with. And can he play better? I would hope so. I mean, I would definitely hope so, because what we saw Sunday just wasn't good. I mean, if you ask me to give him a fair grade, I'm giving him a C minus, because he had a tough assignment. He did, against a true number one who we're recognizing. But there were some plays later in the game, you know, in the fourth quarter, that he was there and knocked the ball away. I mean, so he acquitted himself later in the game. But if that's a starting corner, you have problems there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're grading on a high curve, giving him a C minus, because that boy, that man made a business decision every time someone squared up with him. On the Devin Singletary touchdown, wanted no parts of tackling that man. Every time Neighbors had the ball in space, squared up his shoulder, sized him up, wanted no part. I know someone who doesn't want to tackle. Emmanuel Forbes weighs like 90 pounds
But he
soaking
will
wet.
come up and tackle you.
Yeah, he will throw his helmet, throw his shoulder in the mix. Michael Davis was playing powder puff football on Sunday. We can't have it. Like my boy Mike Singletary said, can't win with it. You cannot win with that type of effort. But moving over, Mikey Sanders still through 2 weeks. He's struggling. That's a hard position to play in the NFL, and you can see the growing pains. What have you seen from Mikey so far?
Yeah, I've seen a guy that's competing, you know, which is good. But he's being asked as a rookie to cover one of the toughest covers in all of football. Slot receivers are different from outside receivers.
Very. They're
Outside
nuanced.
receivers might have north-south speed. That's it, you know. Slot receivers have that speed those outside guys have, but they have that twitchiness too.
That
And
lateral shit. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And you're asking him to cover some of the best. You think of literally who he's covered his first 2 games. That's an indoctrination if there ever was one. So I think for him, it's going to get better. It's naturally going to get better. May not get better Monday, because they're moving Jamar Chase inside a lot too. And he's got some size on him. So Mikey Sanders still is one of those players that I think is going to be a long-term commander and a big part of their defensive success. But you knew rookies were going to come in. If you look at the landscape in the NFL, Rio, of all rookies, not just Mikey and even Jaden, but if you look at the overall landscape of rookies in the NFL, surprisingly, Jaden's probably playing the best out of all of them. You know,
yeah,
so
him and the 2 receivers. Yep,
absolutely.
that's about it.
So you know, if you look at the other quarterbacks, they're struggling. So for Mikey, I'm okay with him. When he gets beat, I don't think, he's terrible.
The effort's there.
Oh no, it's definitely there. It's just recognizing, and this is a different game speed from where he's coming from. You know, he played big time college football, won a national championship, was perhaps one of the best defensive players on Michigan last year. So you know, as the season gets on, he's going to start to pick things up and play a lot better. And I expect that to start happening sooner than later.
His trajectory reminds me of how we developed Kendall Fuller when he got here. Because remember, Kendall was getting beat a lot early, and then it took him a little bit. But when he caught on in the slot, it was on and popping. Once the game slowed down for him, and he was able to just move off instinct, baller.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, I'm going to say this in Mikey's defense: it would help if he got a pass rush in front of him.
Oh, for sure.
You know, but when you're chasing the quickest guys on the field for 3-4 seconds, you're not going to cover them. That's just not made for you to cover anyone. So if he can get some help from the guys up front, then maybe you can see him do better. Maybe you can see Benji do better. Hell, maybe Michael Davis might do better if there's a pass rush.
Now, yeah, and you know, if there is a pass rush, maybe the safeties can be a factor on Sunday, because to finish off the defense, Jeremy Chin, new addition. There's a lot to be desired from him so far. Jeremy Chin, what I can say positive so far about Jeremy Chin: he looks awesome in the uniform. Number 11 looks cool. He recovered a fumble, and then that list stops. What is going on with the safety? Quan Martin's been solid. He's been solid, but We have no playmaking ability at all coming from the safety position. And Jeremy Chin looks lost out there. What have you seen from him?
Rio, you just said it, and I'm so glad, man. This is why I love doing this with you.
Mm-hmm.
All of their safeties are the same guy. It's a guy that you can put in the box to tackle, to be like an extra linebacker. That's
Mm-hmm.
what they all do. They all come up. And the problem is Jeremy Chin's been missing tackles, one-on-one tackles. He's been
Yep.
missing, blatantly whiffing. So they may have to scale some things back for the safeties. They may have to. They may have to go to two safeties. They may have to go to cover twos. They might have to do that because we know when the ball's in the air, they have no playmakers at that position. They just don't. Um, we know that they're guys that don't mind throwing their hat in there to tackle guys. But, when your corners are already struggling a little bit and you're not getting a pass rush, teams are going to exploit you in the middle of the field. And how many times, again, this year looks eerily similar to years past, are guys getting open in the middle of the field and they're chunk plays. So, something's got to give, and I think if Jeremy continues to play the way he does, maybe you start to look at some of these young guys. I mean, to me, the guy of the preseason that had a hell
Owens.
of a camp was Tyler Owens, and
Mm-hmm.
my thing is he's nowhere to be found right now. So listen, I understand money's invested in guys. They're veterans. They're learning new scheme. That it's only been 2 games, and you're 1-1, so you're okay. You got some wiggle room,
Mm-hmm.
but start working some of these other guys in at the same time, because to me it just seems like Tyler Owens has an eye for the football,
Yep.
and that's what they're lacking in the back end of their defense.
Yep, and he has some juice. Like Tyler Owens has, he has the juice to fly around the field, and we're not seeing safeties. I'm looking at last night's Atlanta Falcons versus Eagles game. I'm looking on the Eagles side of the ball, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but on the Falcons side of the ball,
Oh my
Justin
God.
Simmons,
Yeah.
Jesse Bates literally saved the game,
Yeah.
knocking Devontae Smith's touchdown down in the end zone. That's what playmaking safeties look like.
Yeah, they look like big corners, basically, right?
For
I
real.
mean, they literally are breaking on balls. They're knocking it down, and they're coming up and putting their hat on you.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington doesn't have a fear factor in the middle of the field right now in the back end.
They do
No
not.
one's scared of anyone they have back there to break on a ball, to disrupt a deep pass. Matter of fact, if you think about it, it was St. Juice that got back on one of the deep balls and knocked it away.
Yep.
So again, they're going to have to start being creative. But I would like to see a Tyler Owens be given an opportunity, because there's something about that kid, man, the way he plays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he's this guy, because God, rest in peace to
I
one of
know.
our favorite players of all time, Sean Taylor.
81.
But Tyler has something about him that eerily reminds me of, he will come up and crank you, man. He will hit
Mhm.
you, but
Sure
he
will.
has an eye for the ball in the air. He's a playmaker. That's what
Yep.
he is. And they need somebody back there that's a playmaker. They really
Yep.
do.
Tyler Owens looks like a creative player, man. He looks like a linebacker. He runs like a cornerback and has sideline to sideline capabilities to play safety. Jeremy
And he's got
Chin,
a chip on his shoulder, too,
he
because he
does.
knows he should have been drafted.
Yep.
He performed well at the combine. I mean, this guy knows he was jilted a little bit. So that's the kind of edge that I want. I want somebody to just like little PO'd, to show people you slept on me a little bit.
Yep. Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, you are allowed to make plays. And if you don't start proving it on a 1-year proven deal, Jeremy Chin, it may be time to hit the bench eventually. So, with all the data we've amassed on the defensive side of the ball, your grade for Washington and Joe Witt's defense on Sunday is a
A C minus. I'm grading hard because that was supposed to be the focal point of this football team.
mm-hmm.
I'm giving them a C minus because, again, I can only go with certain individual grades. The only reason they didn't get a D is because I think Frankie Louisville played so well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still expecting more from these guys. They're getting no pass rush. They're not getting teams off the field on third
Mm-hmm.
down. They're not creating turnovers. Yeah, they got the one, but I was expecting a lot more from this. And more importantly, I was expecting to see more energy from these guys. I was expecting to see gang tackling, just nasty chippiness out there. And I'm just seeing guys walking back to the huddle, hands on hips. So, yeah, I'm grading hard, man. I'm giving the defense a C minus. if they didn't have that kicker and they didn't have Jaden Daniels' legs and Brian Robinson's legs, they lose the football game. Simple as that.
Easily and badly. I'm going to go ahead and give them a D based on everything I've seen, because we were told about what this Quinn and Witt defense is supposed to look like. I know the scoreboard says under 20 points, but the only reason that is the case is because the Giants didn't have a contingency plan at kicker, because Graham Gano, already on the injury report, tried to tackle Austin Eckler on the opening kickoff return touchdown, and it didn't work out. We got saved by the bell on a Malik Neighbors drop. We got saved by the bell because they had to go for two all day. D grade for them, but they did force a turnover this week. So, that's what I'm giving them for the week. But to wrap this one up, Washington finally has a kicker. I'd say he passed the job interview process. MVP of the day, Austin Seibert, 7 for 7, and he had on, what do you have, an NWA shirt on or something? No, he had a death row. He had a death row shirt on at the press conference.
Yes, he did.
MVP of the ball game. Talk to me about Austin Seibert.
Listen, man, I'm hoping and praying that they have found their kicker for the long term, and I'm going to come out and say they have, because the pressure can't be any worse now going forward. He can't have possibly any more pressure on him than he had on Sunday,
Right.
because first of all, you're playing a divisional game against the Giants, so you know it's going to be a lot of media watching the game, blah blah blah, in your first game. Secondly, you already saw what they did to the kickers before you. Bad games, you're going home. You might not be on the bus. Fortunately, you were playing at home, so you wouldn't have to, find a way to get back from out of town. Third thing, you're kicking for your livelihood. That's pressure in itself. So you add those things all together, and this man comes out of the fray 7 for 7 and basically won the game for your team. He's won over his teammates already. They carried him off the field. You can't ask for a better storyline for this guy. So now he should feel like, I got ice water in my veins. It can't be any more pressure than what it was for me my first game. And he should come out and be able to be a catalyst for them, because let's face it, Rio, they're going to need their field goal kicker to make kicks, because right now the offense just isn't putting it in the end zone.
Yeah, but at least, fortunately, they're getting the ball on the opposing team side of the field. Shout out to Austin Seibert, man. He's the guy that comes in as a temp, and they stack all the cubbies up and all the filing cabinets of stuff. Your first day on the job, you're tasked with saving the company. Well, he saved the company on Sunday and was the MVP. And shout out to his post-game fit as well. To close this one out, final question, and I'm going to let you get out of here because we've already went for 52 minutes so far. Does Washington have a chance versus the 0-2 must-win situation Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football?
100% they do. And the reason why they have a chance is because Cincinnati is going to be desperate. They have to win the football game. Cincinnati understands. Pittsburgh's 2-0 in their division. The Ravens are 0-2. You know that's going to turn around. Cleveland 1-1 came back and had a big win against Jacksonville. So they know if they go 0-3, they're done. Let's face it, because there's other teams in the AFC that are going to knock them out of the playoffs if that were the case. So when you have to win, guess what? You're a little tight around the collar already. So Washington's getting Cincinnati, an angry, winless team, but they're also getting a nervous team that understands that they have to get a W. So Washington should be able to go into Cincinnati primetime, loose and free, play football, and they're going to start playing better by default themselves. So I think now this football game becomes a very close football game that to me right now is a pick 'em. I know that sounds nuts because my heart tells me, Washington has a chance. My head's telling me Cincinnati's going to roll these guys. But I really don't think they can, because, Cincinnati was the better team against Kansas City on Sunday. They outplayed Kansas City. Should have won the game. Wasn't because of the call. They just didn't win the game. But I'm telling you, man, when you know you have to get a W, stranger things happen, and that's why Washington has a chance.
They sure do. And I know upon first glance, it looks like the Bengals should roll us. But I know this football team, and while this is a new era of Washington, we going to show up in a primetime game versus a team we have no business showing up against. And this is a team with title contention hopes, the Cincinnati Bengals. And I imagine T. Higgins is going to be healthy for Sunday and play for the first time this season. I imagine Jamar Chase is going to get fed on Monday night. But I think this is a pick 'em as well. I think we definitely have a shot. And for whatever reason, I think we're going to go up there and introduce Jaden Daniels to a national audience. Monday Night Football doubleheader next week. Thank you for coming on per usual. We're going to do this again next week, Lake. Let folks know where they can find you on our way out.
Sure, you can find me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. on all platforms. You can find my show, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, which Rio will be on Fridays starting this week. You can subscribe to that and watch that on YouTube or sportsjourney.com, or you can subscribe to it on every major podcast carrier. And then, of course, you can check me out sometimes on ABC. This past weekend, heck, you saw me on two networks. So that was all
Fox
love.
too. Yeah.
That was all love, man. So, yeah. So, again, you can go to sportsjourney.com as well.
Yep, and that is our weekly wrap up and transition into Washington's next game. It is now week 3. The Victory Monday period of the week is over. It's time to get ready for our next week. Until next time, hell to the Washington Commanders. It's your boy Rio and Lake. We are